What if I told you that a lot of the rules you follow for your smartphone, the things you do every single day to keep it running smoothly, are actually years out of date? Beliefs that were once essential are now, well, just plain wrong. So be honest, do you still do it? Do you still religiously swipe away every single app from your recent app screen thinking you're saving battery life? Let's dig into this and a whole bunch of other long-held beliefs to see what's fact and what's just outdated fiction. Okay, first up, let's talk about the software itself, the core of how you interact with your phone every day. You might be really surprised how much the game has changed here. Ah yes, the big one. This habit is basically a fossil from the early days of Android. Back when our phones had barely any memory, and you absolutely needed those task killer apps just to keep things from grinding to a halt. But today, that's a completely different world. Modern Android is incredibly smart about managing memory all by itself. And here's the crazy part. When you constantly force close your apps, you're actually making your phone work harder, not smarter. It burns way more battery and CPU power to relaunch an app from scratch than to just pull it from memory where it was waiting for you.
For years, this wasn't just a myth. It was often a painful reality. If you had an older Samsung Galaxy phone, you definitely remember the lag, the stutter, and just so many pre-installed apps you never, ever ask for.
And this slide really tells the whole story. We've gone from the clunky, much criticized TouchWiz interface of old to One UI. And it's not just a new name, it's a complete reinvention of how Samsung does software. Honestly, One UI has totally changed the game. It's not just good-looking and fast, it's also incredibly clean. You know how some competitors load up their phones with junk games and bloatware? Samsung doesn't do that. Even the few extra apps they include can be uninstalled in seconds. What used to be Samsung's biggest weakness is now genuinely one of its greatest strengths. Now, on the flip side of that coin, you've got the long-held belief that pure or stock Android, the kind you find on a Google Pixel, is the perfect superior experience. The idea is that it's clean and simple, but is it maybe too simple? And let's just be real here, this myth is still kinda true. Sure, Google has slowly added basic things like a built-in screen recorder, but when you put it side by side with the deep customization you get on a Samsung or a Xiaomi phone, stock Android can feel pretty empty. That clean simplicity can sometimes just mean you're missing out on a ton of useful features. All right, we've talked software, so let's shift gears and get into the hardware, the nuts and bolts. How do those old myths about performance, build quality, and cameras stack up today? Oh man, do you remember this? A budget Samsung phone used to be the phone you got when you had no other choice. It was a compromise right out of the box. Slow with a bad screen. That reputation was definitely earned back then, but it is completely out of date now. The difference between then and now is it's night and day. The old J-series phones were fine, but today's A-series phones are absolute powerhouses in the mid-range market. They pack beautiful AMOLED screens and performance that seriously punches above their weight. The idea that a non-flagship Samsung is a bad phone is totally dead. This was one of the most frustrating things about early Android. You'd drop a bunch of money on a new phone, and just 12 months later, it felt like it was moving through molasses. But what was actually going on under the hood? And no, it was not just in your head. The storage in those old phones would literally get clogged up and slow down. The fix came way back in Android 4.3 with a feature called Trim. Just think of Trim as a tiny, super efficient librarian for your phone's storage. It's always working in the background, tidying up and keeping things organized, so your phone stays fast for years, not months. For a very, very long time, this was just the law of the land. It wasn't even a debate. If you wanted the absolute best, easiest point-and-shoot camera experience, you bought an iPhone or a Google Pixel. They were the undisputed kings. But that reign is over. While a lot of people still think they're the untouchable champs, the reality is that the camera world at the top has gotten a whole lot more crowded. Their dominance has seriously slipped. Here's the thing, brands like Xiaomi and Vivo aren't just catching up anymore. For a few years now, their best phones have been objectively surpassing the iPhone and Pixel in still photography, especially with things like zoom. And while Apple has always been the king of video, that lead is shrinking incredibly fast.
All right, for our last section, let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture. We're going to tackle myths about the entire Android ecosystem, from software updates to the very freedom it's famous for. For a solid decade, this was Android's Achilles heel. It was the big thing Apple fans always had over Android users. While iPhones were getting 5, even 6 years of updates, most Android phones were lucky if they got 2. It was a huge, legitimate problem.
7. Look at that number. 7 years. This one number completely demolishes that old myth. Both Google and Samsung are now promising a staggering 7 years of OS and security updates for their flagship phones. They don't just match Apple anymore. In some cases, they're actually beating them. This is a monumental shift in the phone world.
Now, for the real tech nerds out there, this was the heart and soul of Android's appeal, right? The freedom to unlock your phone, install custom software or ROMs, and get new features, better performance, and just make the phone truly yours. But yeah, that golden age is long gone. What used to be a massive, thriving community is now a very niche hobby. And that's for 2 big reasons. First, the official software from companies like Samsung is just so good now that there's less of a need to replace it. And second, manufacturers have made it much, much harder to unlock their devices in the first place.
So what's the big takeaway from all this? It's simple. The Android world that created all these myths is gone. From how the software works, to the quality of the hardware, to how long your phone gets updates, the entire landscape has fundamentally changed. And that leaves us with one final question to think about. We've just debunked a ton of old myths. So what about the tech truths we all believe right now? That folding phones are just a gimmick? That AI will always need to be in the cloud? Which of these ideas will be looking back on in 5 years, laughing at how wrong we were? It really makes you think, doesn't it?
If you enjoy this video, please like, share, subscribe and hit the bell to the later update from my channel. Thank you for watching till the end and see you in the next video.